Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into this company, Credo Technology.
Credo technology.
Yeah, have you heard of them?
I have actually, yeah.
So they're not exactly a household name, right?
Right.
But they're doing some pretty incredible things in the world of AI.
Yes, they are.
And their stock price has been on an absolute tear lately.
It has.
Like, seriously, rocketing up like from $24 to $75 in just 3 months.
Yeah,
That's insane.
it is remarkable.
Makes you kind of wonder what they're up to, right?
Game time. What's going on over there?
So that's exactly what we're going to try to figure out today.
Okay.
We're going to unpack what Credo technology does, how their tech is fueling the AI revolution,
I like it.
and why everyone seems to be suddenly paying attention to them.
Sounds like a plan.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
The world is going crazy for AI right now.
It is.
It's like everywhere you look.
It's the new electricity.
It is. It's the new everything.
Yeah.
And all this AI requires massive amounts of computing power, way more than we've ever needed before.
Absolutely.
And that's putting a huge strain on data centers,
It is big time.
the places where all this AI processing actually happens.
Right.
So can you break down, like, what's the bottleneck here?
Yeah, so basically, think about it this way.
Okay.
We're building these incredibly powerful AI systems, right?
Yeah.
Packed with super fast chips and processors.
Mm-hmm.
But all those components need to communicate with each other.
Right.
And the traditional cables, the ones we've used for years,
Yeah.
they're just not up to the task.
So, like, our internet speeds are fast enough? It's more like the physical connections
Yeah,
within the data center itself.
It's the plumbing.
Oh, okay.
It's not about the internet speed necessarily. It's about the connections between the components.
Okay, so the GPUs and CPUs and all that.
All of that stuff needs to be talking to each other really fast.
Okay, and so that's where Credo technology comes in.
That is exactly where they come in.
They've got a solution.
They do.
All right, spill the
Yeah.
beans.
So they develop these things called active electrical cables, AECs, AECs, and they're specifically designed for high-speed, short-distance data transfer.
Okay, so within the data center.
Within the data center, exactly.
So how do these AECs actually work?
Yeah, think of it like a city with millions of inhabitants, but only a few narrow, congested roads. All that data needs to flow freely between those processors, and traditional cables just can't handle the volume and the speed that's required, especially for these demanding AI workloads.
I'm intrigued already. Tell me more.
So imagine you're trying to have a conversation in a really noisy room. It's hard to hear right. Well, AECs are kind of like noise-canceling headphones for data. They actually have these built-in electronics that amplify and clean up the signals. And that ensures smooth and rapid data transfer between all those different AI components.
So they're like clearing the traffic jams inside the data centers, allowing information to flow at lightning speed.
Exactly. And they're doing it way more efficiently and cost-effectively than any of the traditional solutions.
Wow, okay. I'm starting to see why some people are calling this a game changer. I like that analogy.
Good.
So AECs are smart cables. What's the alternative?
Well, the other option that's often used is optical cables.
Okay, but I thought optical cables were like the gold standard.
They are for long distances, like
okay.
connecting cities or continents.
Oh.
But within a data center,
Mhm.
it's a different story.
So for shorter distances.
For shorter distances, yeah, they're expensive. They require complex installation.
And I bet they use a ton of power.
They do. They're power hogs.
Well, not very practical.
Not really. It's like building a 6-lane highway to
Yeah.
go to your next door neighbor's house.
That's a great analogy. I get it.
Right.
Okay, so AEC is kind of like the sweet spot then?
That's what they're aiming for, high speed without the hassle.
So they make sense for data centers.
Yeah, and they're cheaper, more energy efficient, and way easier to install.
Okay, that all makes sense.
Good.
But how do we know this stuff actually works in the real world?
Well, that's the really interesting part.
Okay,
Microsoft,
Microsoft, the big guys.
the big guys, they've adopted Credo's AECs for their AI data centers.
Whoa!
Yeah,
So they're actually using them.
they're using them big time.
So that's got to mean something, right?
It means they believe in this technology.
I mean, if Microsoft's on board.
Yeah, they don't just jump into things lightly.
Okay, that's a pretty big endorsement.
That's-
So it sounds like Credo is onto something really big here.
It does.
But can we break down the advantages of AECs over optical cables,
Sure.
like in a bit more detail?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, let's talk about cost.
Right.
AECs don't need these expensive transceivers,
Yep.
which are essential for optical cables to convert signals back and forth.
Between light and electrical.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
right off the bat, that's a big saving.
Uh-huh.
Then there's the energy consumption.
Right. Data centers use a ton of energy.
They do, and optical cables are really power hungry.
Okay.
But AECs use way less power.
So we're talking about saving money and the planet.
It's a win-win.
I like win-wins.
Everyone does.
All right, so cheaper, more energy efficient. Anything else?
Yeah, they're also way easier to use.
Okay.
Like basically plug and play.
Oh, nice.
Compared to optical cables, which need all this specialized equipment and handling.
So they're user-friendly.
They are.
And I bet they're less fragile, too.
They are more robust than optical cables, which can be pretty delicate. And that's important in a busy data center where things can get bumped around.
Makes sense.
And then the last big advantage, we already talked about it a bit, but it's that they're purpose-built for those short distances within a data center.
Right. Opticals for long haul.
Optical is for long haul, AEC is for the short game.
Okay, I'm getting it.
Good.
But are there any situations where you'd still want to use optical cables?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's important to remember every technology has its strengths and weaknesses.
Right. All
Optical cables are still the best for long-distance transmission,
right. Okay.
like connecting data centers across continents or supporting global networks.
So they still have their place.
They do.
But inside the data center, especially for AI.
AECs seem to have the edge.
Yeah. Okay, this is all starting to make sense.
Good.
But I'm a big fan of like concrete examples.
Okay.
Can you give me a real-world example of how this plays out?
Sure. Let's take Netflix.
Netflix. Okay, I use that.
Everyone uses Netflix.
Yeah.
So when you're binging your favorite show,
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things, there you go.
Yeah.
Optical cables are probably transmitting that video file
Okay.
from a regional data center to your internet provider.
Right. Long distance.
Long distance.
Right.
And they're perfect for that because they can carry massive amounts of data over those long distances.
They're like the backbone of the internet.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about inside those Netflix data centers?
Inside the data center.
Yeah, are they using optical cables for everything?
Well, not quite.
Okay.
See, Netflix uses AI for a lot of things behind the scenes,
Okay.
like analyzing your viewing habits, recommending shows you might like,
Right.
even adjusting video quality in real time
Whoa.
based on your internet connection.
Okay, so all that's happening in the data center.
It is, and it all requires lightning fast communication.
Between the servers and stuff.
Exactly.
But over very short distances.
Right.
So in that case, optical would be overkill.
It would be total overkill, like using a Ferrari
Yeah,
to deliver a pizza down the block.
that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So what are they using then inside the data center?
Well, they're likely relying on a mix of older technologies,
Right.
like passive copper cables or active optical cables, which are kind of a hybrid solution.
Okay, so why hasn't Netflix jumped on the AEC bandwagon yet?
Well, there are a few possible reasons.
Okay.
It could be that their existing infrastructure
Yeah.
is built around these older technologies,
Right.
and it's just not cost effective to switch over right now.
Mm-hmm.
They might also have contracts with other vendors that are hard to break.
That makes sense.
Or it could be that their AI workloads aren't demanding enough yet.
To justify the switch.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe waiting and seeing,
It's possible.
but eventually.
Yeah, but eventually they'll probably have to make the switch if they want to stay competitive.
Right, because AI is only getting bigger.
Absolutely. And this isn't just specific to Netflix.
Why?
Any company that wants to get serious about AI, whether it's for data analysis, customer service, or developing new products, they're going to face these same infrastructure challenges.
Okay.
And as we've seen,
Yeah.
AECs are looking like the solution of choice.
So Credo is in a really good spot. Microsoft is already using these AECs in their data centers, which is pretty impressive because, they're not exactly known for just jumping on every trendy tech bandwagon.
That's right. They do their due diligence. So when a tech giant like Microsoft puts their faith in the technology, it's a pretty strong signal that it's the real deal.
Yeah, it's a big validation for Credo, for sure. But what exactly is Microsoft using these cables for? I mean, they're involved in so many different things.
Well, you're right. They're everywhere. But they're really heavily invested in AI across a bunch of different applications, right? So everything from cloud computing to gaming to even their Bing search engine.
Oh, yeah, Bing. That's right. They have that AI chatbot now, don't they? The one that can, answer your questions and write poems and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. And all of those AI-powered features require massive amounts of data to be processed in real time. So it's very likely that they're using Credo's AECs to handle all the heavy lifting behind those applications.
So potentially, every time someone asks Bing AI to write, a haiku about their cat, Credo's technology is quietly working behind the scenes, making the magic happen.
Yeah, it's very possible. And that's just one example. I mean, as AI applications become even more sophisticated and demanding, the need for this kind of robust, high bandwidth infrastructure is only going to grow.
So it sounds like Credo is positioning themselves to be a really key player in this whole AI revolution.
Absolutely. And they're not just relying on Microsoft's endorsement. They've been steadily building their technology and their partnerships for a while now, and they're seeing significant growth in demand for their AECs, which shouldn't be a surprise.
Right, it makes sense. Okay, so we've established that Credo is doing something important and they seem to be on the right track. But let's get to the juicy stuff, shall we?
Ah, I see where you're going with this. Yeah.
Exactly. What's the potential upside here? Could Credo be like the next big tech giant?
Hmm.
Should we all be buying their stock right now?
Well, before we get into giving stock tips, which, I'm legally obligated to say I can't give.
Of course. We're just having a hypothetical conversation here. Nothing
Yeah.
financial advice.
Right, of course. But to answer your question, yeah, Credo is definitely a company to watch for sure. Their technology is crucial to the future of AI, and they're already experiencing really significant growth. Yeah, optical cables are great for long distances.
Yeah.
They're not ideal for the short distances within a data center. They're expensive, complex to install, and require specialized equipment. It's like using a jumbo jet for a trip across town. Overkill and inefficient. AECs, on the other hand, offer a sweet spot. They're faster and more efficient than copper, but also more cost-effective and easier to manage than optical cables for these short distances.
That makes sense. And it sounds like Microsoft, a company that's clearly betting big on AI, sees the value in this approach.
Absolutely. Microsoft's adoption of Credo's AECs for their Azure cloud platform is a huge validation of the technology. They're facing the same data challenges as everyone else in the AI space, and they've clearly decided that AECs are the best solution.
So Credo has developed this game-changing technology. They've got Microsoft on board, and their stock is soaring. What does all of this mean for their future? Is this just the beginning?
That's the question we'll explore further. Because Credo's story isn't just about cables. It's about a company positioned at a critical inflection point in the evolution of AI infrastructure. Their success could have ripple effects throughout the entire industry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we've established that Credo is making waves in the AI world with their AECs, but they're not operating in a vacuum, right? There must be other companies trying to solve this data transfer challenge.
Yeah.
What does the competitive landscape look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's important to understand that Credo isn't the only player in this game. There are other companies, some much larger and more established, who are also working on solutions for high-speed data transfer and data centers. Companies like Broadcom and Marvell, for example, they have significant resources and expertise in this space.
So how does Credo, this relative newcomer, stack up against those giants?
Yeah.
Are they playing David and Goliath?
Well, it's not quite a direct David and Goliath situation, because the competitive dynamics are a bit more nuanced. While Broadcom and Marvell are certainly formidable players, their focus on AECs is actually quite different from Credo's. Think of it like this. Broadcom and Marvell are like massive department stores offering a wide range of products and solutions. AECs are just one department within their vast portfolio.
So they're not putting all their eggs in the AEC basket.
Exactly. Their resources and attention are spread across many different areas. Credo, on the other hand, is like a specialized boutique laser-focused on perfecting AEC technology. They've gone all in on this one specific area, which has allowed them to develop a deep level of expertise and innovation that's difficult for larger companies to match.
So it's a classic case of specialization versus diversification. Credo's betting that their laser focus will give them an edge in this rapidly evolving market.
Precisely. And their early success with companies like Microsoft suggests that this strategy is paying off. They're proving that they can compete with the big guys by offering a highly specialized and innovative solution that meets the specific needs of AI data centers.
But even with that early success, it's still a pretty daunting task to take on these massive, well-established companies.
Mm.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Couldn't Marvell or Broadcom just, throw their massive resources at this problem and catch up to Credo? I mean, they've got the money, they've got the engineers.
They could definitely try, but, developing a competing AEC technology from scratch, it would take a lot of time and resources for sure. And there's no guarantee they would even be able to match Credo's level of expertise. It's not just about, building a cable. It's about really understanding the nuances of these AI workloads and how to optimize for speed and efficiency.
Anticipate future demand.
Exactly, exactly. So even with all their money and all their engineers, the giants might just find it really hard to replicate what Credo has already achieved. Which brings us to another intriguing possibility.
Okay, let's hear it.
Acquisition.
Oh, wow. Okay, so instead of crushing the competition, they could just, absorb it.
Exactly. It's a classic if you can't beat them, buy them kind of scenario. And honestly, it would make a lot of sense from a business perspective, right? I mean, they'd get instant access to this cutting-edge technology, a whole team of experts, and of course, a strong foothold in this market that's just growing incredibly fast.
Yeah, and for Credo, it would be like joining forces with a superpower, right? They'd suddenly have all these resources and backing to really scale up their operations and take their technology to a whole new level.
Precisely. It's really a win-win situation for both sides. And of course, let's not forget what that would mean for Credo's stock price if an acquisition were to be announced. Well, let's just say I think investors would be pretty happy.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that. Pretty mind-blowing thought.
It is. It really speaks to the broader impact Credo is having on the whole AI landscape.
So where does Credo fit into like the big picture of this whole AI gold rush that's happening?
Oh, that's a great question.
Are they the ones finding the gold, or are they like selling the tools to the prospectors?
I like that analogy. I'd say Credo is definitely in the picks and shovels business of AI.
Okay, so they're not necessarily developing like the latest AI algorithms or building robots.
Right. They're providing the essential infrastructure that makes all those fancy AI algorithms and applications possible.
So they're kind of like the unsung heroes of the AI revolution.
Exactly. And their success is a reminder that sometimes the most lucrative opportunities are in those less glamorous but equally crucial supporting roles.
Yeah, it's like the old saying, during a gold rush, sell shovels.
Exactly.
So in the case of AI, Credo is selling the shovels.
They're selling the high-speed connections that make everything else possible.
Okay, so it's not just about connecting GPUs and CPUs anymore. It's about creating the foundation for a whole new era of computing.
Precisely. We're talking about massive data centers, cloud computing platforms, even edge computing applications where AI is being deployed closer to the source of data.
All of these scenarios require high-speed, reliable connectivity.
And that's where Credo comes in.
It sounds like they've really carved out a niche for themselves. It's incredible to think about how a simple cable can be so essential to the future of AI.
It really shows how important infrastructure is for any new technology. We always focus on the flashy new things, but without a strong base, none of that would happen.
You're right, and I think that's what makes this deep dive into Credo technology so interesting.
It is. It's a company that's quietly powering this huge AI revolution.
Yeah, they're not creating the AI itself, but they're making sure the AI can function.
Exactly. They're the ones making sure all that data can flow quickly and efficiently.
And that's where their AECs come in.
Active electrical cables. Yeah, they're like building those high-speed highways within the data centers.
And they're much more practical than optical cables for those short distances.
Right. Optical cables are great for long distances, but inside a data center, they're overkill.
And remember we talked about how Microsoft is already using Credo's AECs in their data centers?
Yep. That's a huge vote of confidence from one of the biggest tech companies in the world.
It definitely shows that Credo is on to something big.
And we even use Netflix as an example.
Right, how they use optical cables to stream movies to our homes.
Long distances.
But inside their data centers, they probably need something different.
They need those short, high bandwidth connections for their AI processing, and that's where AECs shine.
So it's all about using the right tool for the job. And Credo seems to have found the perfect tool for AI infrastructure.
That's why they're growing so rapidly. And we even talked about the potential for them to be acquired by a larger company.
Like Broadcom or Marvell.
Right. Those are big players in the industry. And acquiring Credo could give them a big advantage in the AEC market.
What else should we be considering as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into Credo technology?
Well, there's one more crucial element that we haven't really touched on yet, and that's Credo's financial performance. They recently had their earnings call, and the results were quite interesting.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing something about that. Didn't they mention hitting an inflection point? What's the scoop? Good news or bad news?
Oh, definitely good news. They're seeing their revenue really take off. It's like they've hit that point on the roller coaster where you start climbing the big hill and you know things are about to get exciting.
Okay, hold on. For someone who doesn't analyze earnings calls for fun, break it down. What are the key takeaways here?
Sure. Credo highlighted two main things. First, a surge in demand for their AECs, driven by this like crazy fast adoption of AI across industries.
So everyone wants what Credo is selling.
Supply and demand, right?
Right.
Exactly. Second, they emphasize strong customer relationships.
Not just a quick sale, but building long-term partnerships. That's always a good sign.
Absolutely. Shows Credo isn't just a one-trick pony. They're gaining trust, becoming part of their customers' like core AI strategies.
Okay, so all signs point to Credo being on a really positive trajectory.
And for those who are like hooked on this AI revolution and the companies driving it, there's a ton more to explore.
That's right. We did a deep dive on Bloom Energy a while back, another company playing a key role in that future AI infrastructure. We'll link that episode in the show notes for anyone who's interested.
Perfect. And stay tuned for more episodes of the Deep Dive. Always on the lookout for fascinating companies and groundbreaking tech.
That's what we're here for, helping you navigate this crazy world one deep dive at a time.
So until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.
And never underestimate the power of a well-designed cable.